Early one morning at the roadside rest stop, Marcus Daniels was filling his water bottle when uniformed officers rushed in and snapped handcuffs onto his wrists. He couldn't believe it. He'd done nothing wrong. By sunrise the next day, Marcus would sit on the bench as Judge Daniels, and those same officers would stand before him, waiting for his verdict. Before we dive into this incredible true story, drop a comment below and tell me what city are you watching from right now. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss what happens next. Early that morning, Marcus Daniels woke before dawn. He drove his old sedan onto the quiet highway, heading toward the next town. He planned to refill his water bottle and stretch his legs at the rest stop. The air was cool and smelled of fresh dew. He felt at ease. As he stepped out of his car, two uniformed officers appeared from behind the snack kiosk. One of them pointed a flashlight in Marcus's eyes. The light was sharp and blinding. "Stay right there," the taller officer said. His voice was hard. Marcus raised his hands. "Officer, what's going on?" he asked. But before Marcus could speak again, the shorter officer clicked a pair of handcuffs. The metal bit into Marcus's wrists, cold and unyielding. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus said, struggling to keep calm. People inside the rest area peered through the windows. Some held phones. Some looked away, ashamed. The taller officer glared. "You match the description of a suspect in last night's burglary. Identical build, same height. We have to bring you in." Marcus shook his head. "You have the wrong man. My name is Marcus Daniels. I live 10 miles back on State Road 12. I haven't committed any crime." They didn't listen. They led him to their patrol car. The light from the dashboard flashed red and blue across his face. He saw fear in the eyes of passing travelers. He heard the doors click shut. Inside the station, the bright lights felt harsh on Marcus's skin. The officers put him in a small cell and left. Marcus sat on the hard bench and tried to calm himself. He glanced at his phone through the bars. 5:17 a.m. His court hearing was at 2 p.m. He was a judge, Judge Marcus Daniels, scheduled to hear a case later that afternoon in the next city. He had been appointed just 2 months earlier. He had spent years working as a public defender. He believed in justice. He believed in treating every person with respect. Now he was trapped in a cell by officers who thought he was a burglar. Minutes dragged like hours. He thought of his mother's words, "Stand firm, no matter what." He took a deep breath. He remembered his own words from last week's lecture. Justice cannot wait for tomorrow. At 6 a.m., the station door opened. The shorter officer walked in. He carried a file. "We have your mugshot ready," the officer said without looking up. He slid the photo under the door. Marcus pressed his hand against the cold bars. "Officer, please," he said. "You're making a mistake. I have paperwork. I have an ID badge." The door clicked open. The officer stepped back, holding the file. "Show it." Marcus stood and held out his wallet. He removed his judge's badge and his driver's license. The officer looked at his face, then at the badge, then back at Marcus. He swallowed. "Sir," the officer said, "we're sorry." Before Marcus could reply, the taller officer stormed in, red-faced. He glared at Marcus's badge. "You're a judge?" "Yes," Marcus said. His voice was steady. "Judge Marcus Daniels." The taller officer ran a shaky finger down the badge. Then he looked at the shorter officer. "Let him out." They unlocked his cuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists, still numb from the cold metal. He looked at both officers. "You owe me an apology," Marcus said, "and the truth about why you arrested me." The officers muttered apologies. They offered no real explanation. They just said they had orders and followed a description. Marcus pulled on his coat. The station's fluorescent lights glared as he stepped outside. The sky above was brightening, hinting at sunrise. He climbed into his car without a word. The officers watched him go. Marcus sat behind the wheel. He locked the doors. He felt a surge of power and purpose. By 2 p.m., the courtroom was filled. Journalists sat along the back wall. A crowd of onlookers crowded the gallery. They had heard about the judge who was arrested at dawn. They whispered among themselves. Marcus entered in his black robes. The clerk called the court to order. The bailiff stood to one side. The defense attorney approached, ironically, a public defender who had once been one of Marcus's mentees. "Your Honor," she said softly, "you look well." He nodded. "Thank you." On the defendant's bench sat the two officers. They wore their crisp uniforms, now stained with embarrassment. Their eyes met Marcus's with a mix of fear and shame. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, today we bring charges of false arrest, unlawful detention, and civil rights violations against these officers." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Marcus raised a hand. "Proceed!" Over the next hour, Marcus listened to the evidence. Witnesses testified. Security footage from the rest area showed the officers rushing at Marcus without asking questions. Their commands sounded harsh and unfounded. A civil rights expert explained how such mistakes erode public trust. When it was time for the defense, the officers stood and spoke. Their voices trembled. They admitted they had acted on a vague description. They tried to explain their fear of crime, their sense of duty, but their words rang hollow. Marcus watched them. He remembered his own fear that morning. He remembered the sound of the handcuffs. He remembered their failure to see him as a human being. Then he took the stand. He told his story calmly, without anger or bitterness. He spoke of his years as a public defender. He spoke of his belief in the law. He spoke of his mother's advice to stand firm. "I forgive you," he said to the officers. "But forgiveness does not erase harm. You violated my rights. You violated the law." He paused. The courtroom was silent. "In the interest of justice and to send a clear message that we cannot allow fear to override our duty, I find you guilty on all counts." The officers' faces drained of color. Marcus looked each of them in the eye. "I sentence you to 6 months in the county jail, suspended," he said. "You will perform 200 hours of community service. You will attend civil rights training. You will publish a written apology to Mr. Daniels, to be posted on the department's website. You will learn to see the humanity in the people you serve." He nodded to the bailiff. "This court is adjourned." A gavel struck. The sound echoed through the chamber. Outside, reporters clustered around Marcus. They asked him questions about fairness, about justice, about his experience. He answered each one simply. Justice must be blind only to wealth, power, or status, but it must see the color of fear and prejudice and strike them down. As he walked away, the sun shone warmly on his face. Marcus Daniels, once a suspect at a lonely rest stop, had become the judge who restored justice, and the officers he once feared would carry his lesson with them always. Inspired by Marcus's journey from handcuffs to the bench, subscribe to One Love Stories now and hit the bell so you never miss a powerful tale of justice and hope.